Chilly Tuesday in Cape Town. Today's topic of discussion is your personal financial portfolio. So, a quick reminder of why we do these sessions. So, like we say every time, these sessions are all about connecting. It's about sharing a few bits of information about the coronavirus. It's about talking about business during this time of a pandemic, and about understanding how we can correct, how we can move forward, and how we can potentially change the way we do things to ensure that our businesses move forward stronger and better than they did prior to the coronavirus, if possible. Chances are at the moment we're all probably stressing about the fact that we have to start now. So we probably are working, we are looking at how we can reopen, what the forms are to reopen, how we reopen. So while we were in a bit of a lull or a bit of a coma during the lockdown, we should start seeing some movement in our economies and our business as well. And that may also be causing a little bit of anxiety about what to do next as well. So hopefully we can get some good information out to you guys today. A quick reminder, we've got a shared drive with piles of information with regards to key elements from funding to our webinars we've done so far, to how to look at your business now going into the policies and procedures of reopening, looking at just various bits of information you could use for your business during and now reopening after the pandemic as well. We've also got some policies you can look at. So the return to work policies, any business opening out to the public or to the employees will need to ensure that they have the protocols in place and the regulatory, I suppose, kits and the regulatory posters and all those sort of things in their offices to make sure that they are abiding by the rules and set down by governments with regards to protecting and preventing the spread of the coronavirus as well. So if you need some information about that, there is a website to those procedures, and you're more than welcome to use it as well. I think, considering we're talking about the reviving of our businesses post the coronavirus pandemic, we can't be oblivious to the fact that more than likely our businesses will look very differently to when it started. Were to where we are now, and more than likely you would probably have to relook at your financials, relook at some of your processes. Maybe even you've pivoted to a point where your operations and your business model may have changed substantially to how you operate and deliver moving forward. So we highly recommend that every business owner have a look at doing a benchmark, whether it's a personal benchmark, whether it's a business benchmark, whether you do it yourself or with an advisor or coach. We highly recommend that you go and have a look and see where your business has changed and look at the key areas you need to focus on to deliver the best possible results when you reopen now. The best thing about a benchmark, again, is the fact that you at least can see where you're at. So many of us tend to put blinkers on. We tend to forget about the fact that we have a business we have to run, and we try and do things that are the easy wins, maybe not the easiest work, right? Or the more difficult work. So sometimes facing the harsh reality of where we are at the moment is key to making sure we can make decisions so that our business can survive. All right, we discussed this briefly in a few of the sessions. So the coronavirus pandemic has definitely put a huge shift on where we see our business going to. More than likely, each business we've dealt with at least have gone through a bit of a paradigm shift with regards to how they're operating, how they're doing business, and how they will look at running their companies now. Again, a key example of this is how we are interacting with clients at the moment, how we're interacting with staff, and the fact that most businesses are operating from home. Even though they're allowed to go back, they more than likely won't return to an office space anytime soon, and some might never return to an office space due to the fact that they've found they can actually work more efficiently and better working from home. Hopefully, in the long run, what that will mean is change in profitability margins, change in how we operate, change in flexi hours, and all those sort of things, which is already a huge shift going forward as well. All right. We thought we'd add a bit of actions about how to build resilience and reshape your business. So I'm not going to run through every single one of these steps, but again, we have to consider the fact that safety is key here. The biggest reason for why government put us into a lockdown was to try and stem the tide, I suppose, and flatten the curve of the infection rate for this pandemic. Right now, there isn't a cure or there isn't a vaccine. So we have to make sure that the people we deal with and the staff we deal with their safety is taken as a first priority. We have to also make sure that, number two, we communicate with our stakeholders. So if there are challenges with regards to production, if there are issues with regards to supplies, payments, or delivery of goods, if there are any issues or any sort of plans you have for the reopening, communication will be key. The last thing we want in a time like this is perception that either your business isn't operating, that your business is failing, that your business isn't working. So communication is a vital part of making sure that you can reshape and get back into business again. The next thing is you have to look at your strategy. So how do we maintain continuity now, either prior to or to what we're doing prior to the pandemic, or how do we make sure that we can reshape and rework our business model? So we have to do things like evaluating our cash flow. We have to make bad or difficult decisions with regards to cutting costs and doing that fast and effectively. And we also to make sure that we monitor what government's doing to help with regards to either funding, grants, loans, or just regards to change in regulation as well. And then we have to make sure we're ready for the recovery. So the last point is once we have a plan in place, once we've done the hard work of establishing what our break evens would be, what our new business model looks like, we have to make sure we go out and deliver on that strategy. And the best way of doing it is to make sure you do it as quick and as fast as possible, not to linger and wait. Because more than likely, there are a lot of businesses around you who are going to be doing the same thing as you are, but probably doing it faster if you do hesitate and wait to move. So today we're looking at the importance of a personal financial portfolio. So why is it important for a business owner to worry about their personal financial portfolio, you might ask? So there are a few things with regards to operating a business and running a business. And one thing we picked up as OptiGrowth is that we found that a lot of the business owners we talk to tend to not differentiate between them and their business. They tend to look at their business as who they are. They tend to look at their business as who they are. And they tend to think that they work sort of in the same plane and as the same entity. Now, firstly, from our perspective and our methodology, we truly believe that you have to spread and you have to split those two entities apart, being your personal life and your business life. And what we mean by that is you've got to try and build your business to be a sustainable and a sellable asset at some point in its lifespan. It doesn't have to be right now. The only concern is that what does sellability actually mean? Now, for most of us, if we can take it literally, sellability you might think means to sell, but in fact, the way we see it is sellability gives you an option of what you can do. And what that means is while there may be options of selling it as one of the options, there are things like building your business and scaling it to a point where you can start handing it over to a generation of managers to run your company. Meaning you can take a step back, you can sit on the board, and you can help guide the strategic benefits of the company. Again, taking a bit of control of your business, but also leaving the operations, the day-to-day environments to be run by somebody else, while you benefit from the wealth you've created within that company as well. So by differentiating between you and your business, you are starting the first steps of making that transition between a business that runs for you and a business that starts working on its own feet and running away, or not running away, on its own feet and starts growing towards a position that you probably couldn't take to yourself. All right. The first thing is when we start looking at wanting to revive our business, we have to consider the fact that 90% of the work sits with a plan and 90% of the work is preparing ourselves for that reviving of a company. So we have to take a step back. We have to consider where we are, either as a personal employee or owner of the business, but also as the business itself. To rush into potentially opening up your doors just for the sake of opening them could also lead to further pains down the road as well. So if you get caught by government or by the police for not following the regulations and the strict measures put in place to try and make sure that this disease isn't transmitted any faster, you could be liable for either fines and you could be liable for some real bad public, I suppose, news bits. You could be up for when the fire alarm with regards to social media, as we've seen with quite a few businesses who have done that either during the harsh lockdown we had or as they've started reopening as well. So what is a financial portfolio? There's a very nice saying that we heard many years ago that each business owner should consider having three pockets. The first pocket being your business pocket, the second pocket being your savings pocket, and the third pocket being your personal pocket. Now, in no particular order, the idea there is that you manage your funds and you manage your wealth and you manage your cash with three completely different mindsets and three completely different, I suppose not entities, but three completely different ways of viewing them. So the idea there is to split the needs of the business, split the needs of your personal, as well as maintaining some sort of savings on the side as well. Dividing your personal and your business finances is like we said, the first step to transforming your idea into reality. So very often we get asked the question, why must I have a PTY when it's easy to have a sole prop as a sole entrepreneur? And the fact and the reason why you shouldn't be considering a sole proprietary is because you want to consider that your business is an entity living and breathing away from just you. And as a sole prop, unfortunately, you and your business are tied together very strongly with regards to how you spend, what you spend, and how you operate in the company. So by dividing and by pulling out the requirements of finance and understanding how that finance is split between you as a person and you as a business is vital to getting those first few steps off the ground to make your business more successful, but also operating more clearly. So how do we go about separating our businesses? We thought we'd bring back the slide just to remind us of two key aspects. Firstly, who am I in my business? And secondly, what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a small business owner? It tends to be a bit of a confusing statement, and anybody who's part of our group mastermind programs or who use our service will know that we drive very hard at defining where you sit in between either these two sort of aspects. So the biggest difference is, I'm going to run through the slides very quickly. The biggest difference effectively is that a business owner tends to look very short term. A business owner tends to have a great idea, but also is very risk adverse. So they don't like taking risks because their entire livelihood generally tends to sit in that one business. And they tend to be very sentimental about their business. So they hold a lot of emotion, a lot of pride in what they do. And they also tend to work in their businesses, not on their businesses. So a business owner tends to have his entire focus and his entire position on making that business survive and therefore making himself survive. When you look at an entrepreneur tends to have big ideas and tends to enjoy taking risks. They tend to think in grander scales. They tend to think in longer term views, but they also enjoy scaling their businesses and therefore having far less of an emotional attachment to what their company is. And they also then tend to work on making money from their businesses or working on their businesses. Now, why is that difference so key? What we find in our industry and what we do is that business owners tend to always focus on getting things done and don't take a step back to think, where is their business actually going? What is their next 5-year plan? What is their 20-year plan if they've still got 20 years left in them? Because at some point your business has to come to an end, or your way of working or the type of work you do has to come to an end, because either you're reaching retirement age or you're planning to do something with your later years or at some point that might not include being a business owner. Now, the scary thing is a lot of business owners tend to think they can just leave their businesses, it'll die away, and they've made their money from it. But in actual fact, they're leaving money on the table. So they're forgetting the fact that there's an asset sitting there that holds a lot of wealth, and that holds a lot of capital that they could be getting out of it if they build it in the right structures, and if they fundamentally put the building blocks in place that they can have some value to it as well. Now, entrepreneurs will think like that. Entrepreneurs will see it as an investment, and they'll start building towards that investment as well. And we tend to have to always pull ourselves as business owners to pull ourselves away from that being in the cold face and sitting back and going, what can I do in my company? And what can I do to make it a company that lasts 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, so that by the time I'm ready to exit, my company holds some value to me. So either I can hand it over to my kids, I can hand it over to the next managers, or I can sell it outright as an asset, and to make sure that I can walk away with either retirement or with a nice cash or bag of money, so I can go and travel and enjoy my retirement and have a bit of a holiday. We then move to the second part of the discussion, which is, as a business owner, we tend to wear 3 hats. We most of us as small business owners tend to do everything in our business, and we have to also split the way we think about our company when we are in our company. And the first hat we wear is that of a shareholder. So that means that as a pure shareholder, I own a stake in the company, and I require that my share value increases. So if I invest 10 Rand into the business, I expect that value that 10 Rand to grow into a 12 Rand, into a 15 Rand, into a 20 Rand value in a space of a few months or a few years, depending on how my business grows. The basis of that is, if I take that 10 Rand or that 100 Rand, I put into a bank, I will be getting interest and earning interest in the money in that bank. Now, if my business isn't doing the same, then there's potentially a risk that I'm going to lose out on any efforts or any money I put into my business as well. You also, as a shareholder, have something called dividends. So when the company does make profits, you as a shareholder are, rewarded for the company doing well by that dividend being paid out, or that profit being paid out to the various shareholders in that company. The next hat we wear is that of a director. So as a board member or as a company director, And a director is the person driving the strategy, defining the vision, and making sure company policies are being implemented in the business. So that means they take a very strategic look at where the company is going, and they ensure that the needs of the shareholder are being achieved. And that means, are we as a business operating in a way that will bring the best value to my shareholders and bring about a profitable entity that I can therefore enhance my share value, but also reward my shareholders with some form of dividends? And that's what the directors of the board are there to do. They are there to be the experts within the business environment, to be the experts with regards to business running and with scaling the business as well. And the last hat is we look at, do we have the employees or the structures to deliver on those strategies? So an employee effectively has no decision-making power with regards to strategic views of the company. They report directly to a CEO who sits either on the board as a potential board member, but isn't necessarily a board member sometimes. So a CEO gets appointed by the director of the boards to deliver on the strategies and run the employee team. And we need to understand that's where do we fit in our day-to-day operations with regards to the hat we're wearing. Are we just the employee delivering on strategy? Are we the person defining the strategy? Or are we the shareholder who's looking at the company from a basis of how much value is this entity or this asset creating for me as an investor in that business? Now, for most of us, we are shareholders, we are directors, and we are employees, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The question will just be, how often do we step away, and how often do we understand what decisions and what actions we're taking and which hat we're wearing at which particular point in my company's lifetime? So the question here is where do we sit in our personal capacities then, if we fulfill all three of these roles? And I think because of the way most business owners operate, we tend to forget there's also a personal holding or a personal side to this. So Damion Stander, as a OptiGrowth shareholder, as a director of OptiGrowth and an employer of OptiGrowth, also has to have a personal budget and an understanding of what his personal needs are with regards to financials and investments and hopefully savings and some liabilities as well. All right. And again, when we talk about moving our business to a point where it is sellable, we look at removing ourselves from what we call the owner's trap. And again, the biggest thing is if I've got the option to sell, pass down, scale, or be a chairman of the board, I have more options than somebody who hasn't thought about that selling portion yet of their business. I've got more options than the person who hasn't scaled, who hasn't moved their business away from being reliant totally on them, because I'm at least at a point where I can walk away and my company can carry on going without me. Therefore being worth more, but also therefore, if I choose not to work in the business, it will also give me an opportunity to make money from it without working, which is a great way to work. All right. So again, why is it important to split finance from your business and your personal finance? The first thing is there's a professional image that you have to consider. So anyone looking into your company, anyone wanting to see what you're doing, any potential investor or any potential, sorry, my dog's going a bit crazy. Any potential investor or anyone who's looking to acquire something in your company or take part of your workload off you, will look at your business and ask, what is the risk of this business owner or this person, this company, using the business for their own needs? Sorry, give me 1 second. For their own needs. So the big question here will be is how do we split our income and how do we portray a professional image where the business is seen as operating in isolation from its owners? And I think it's quite a big part, quite a big importance for anyone like a bank, like a loan, like someone who wants to give you a loan or financing, or just potential investors or directors in your board who need to make decisions about on the company's best interest. All right. There's a thing called credit ratings. So we had a webinar about 2 or 3 weeks ago where we discussed your credit scores, and your company and you both have a credit rating. So the idea here is your business and you have to split the view of the banks or view the government takes on how risky the business is, how well you spend your money, how well you look after debt, and how affordable or how valuable that debt is to you. If we don't do that, the chances are we get linked up with our business and we may be held accountable, or we may be asked to hold surety in any loans or any things we do for our company. All right. One thing that business owners tend to not do is to pay themselves a salary. So the question is, if we pay ourselves a salary as a business owner, we are able to look like or as an individual, we are able to prove affordability. Now, proving affordability in the bank's eyes is vitally important for when you're looking to take out, as in your personal capacity, long-term or short-term loans. So things like mortgage bonds, things like car loans, or anytime you in your personal capacity are trying to get financing for something. If you don't pay yourself a salary, at least a fixed salary, and if you don't get yourself into a position where you can start proving that you're earning some more money, the chances are the banks won't look very kindly on you when you start looking at how to afford things. You need to track your shared expenses. So I think it goes without saying that as most businesses and business owners, we tend to sometimes take a few, I suppose, cuts or a few opportunities of using the company to our benefit as well. So an entertainment cost or a dinner that runs a bit late from a business meeting and goes over into a few drinks with the wife or the partner, and you just add it to the company's tab type of thing. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you keep track of what you are using and how you're using it, you should be in the clear. Again, it comes down to objectivity. It comes down to how we are sharing information with our board and our stakeholders, but it also looks at the tax consequences around how SARS sees you operate and how SARS sees your business operates. And then maintaining your separate bank accounts. So in a sole prop, you tend to have one joint account between your business. The idea here, like with the 3 pockets, is that you separate your bank accounts between your business and you personally, so that you can make and show anyone how money is moving through each of those 2 entities, being you and your business. All right. I want to hand over to Henk just to have a look at, sorry, my dog is busy growling and trying to play with me now, of course, during a webinar as well. So I want to hand over to Henk quickly just for the discussion around the financial portfolio to show what it looks like and how to put it together to effectively show anyone how to work.
Yeah, that is difficult to keep a straight face when a dog is going crazy. Eh?
Very difficult for me as well, and she just won't leave me alone. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just while Damien's busy sharing the screen there, there's a bit of a misunderstanding or a misperception sometimes between smaller business owners and bigger businesses, where people think, I don't need a business portfolio or a financial portfolio. I have my business portfolio. I'm a small business, and I don't need to sit and worry about the extra workload. It's actually quite dangerous, and you're doing yourself no favors. And my view is that it doesn't matter how important you are in your life, where you are, how old you are, whether you're in a small business as a single owner or in a board of multiple directors, multiple co-ownerships, shareholding structures. There's definitely a need for all of us to understand what is our monetary worth. So like Damion mentioned earlier on, if you look at a financial portfolio, a personal portfolio, and you compare that to your financials for your business, your profit and loss statement is actually your income and expense statement for yourself and maybe your wife or family trust around you or your family members around you. But if you just take yourself, look at your income, look at your expenses, and that equates basically to the same thinking as a profit and loss statement in the business. The same will go for your assets and liabilities. Your balance sheet basically in your business reflects your asset worth, and the same for you as an individual. You need to understand what is your worth based on your assets, and then there's a few interesting things you can add, like for example your insurances and that. Barbara and myself have been running our own financial portfolio for our family trust and for our kids for many years. And we update it regularly, basically every 3 months or so, just to make sure we're on top of it. And we've used it multiple times with banks, applications, our own internal family planning, and etc., to make sure that we know where we stand. So I'm going to just take a few moments to guide you through this and just show you the template that we use to do all of this. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. I see Anthony, you raised your hand. Damion, can you just now answer to chat to talk? Maybe I'll just do it quickly here. Anthony, you raised your hand, Anthony?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, that was interesting. Did you say you can add your insurance to your assets and liabilities?
Oh, yeah.
And when you say insurance, are you talking about life insurance? Does that become an asset?
Yes, yeah, Anthony, absolutely. So insurance, if you think the money you spend, the opportunity you have to derive benefit, financial benefit from long-term insurance, retirement annuities, and other related investments, there's a cash value that you pass to the insurer, and at any given time there should be a drawback value for you. All right. So I'll show you as we move through these different aspects. I'll show you how it falls in line. All right. Okay, so maybe to start off with is the cover page to a financial portfolio. Now, it seems like a simple thing, and it is, but I just want to quickly cover the layout here. So first and foremost, you will take your personal name around it. You will, of course, have things like your ID number, making sure that your income tax number's on there. Maybe same for your wife or partner or kids or a family trust maybe. And just a simple place where you actually just record the registration numbers, information around your personal identification, and then also aspects around your physical address, contact numbers, maybe your last will and testament where it's actually being in escrow or being held, and also your if you are married, your how are you married? Are you in community? Are you married by international contract? So it's one place that you can quickly print out. You can give it over to a banker or to anybody that's got an interest to quickly get access to information. So simple little thing, but it's good to keep it updated and to fill in any other relevant information that you may want there. So on this template that we've created, the cover page tab there is a useful one, albeit very simple. All right. So what we then do is we take from a very starting point, we'll take the husband and wife income stream. Just want to make it a bit bigger for you. All right, and you can basically see it's broken down as first and foremost is the husband in this particular case, and then there's the wife underneath, the breakdown for the husband's income and expense stream. So we started with the income on the left hand side, and in this case there's a monthly salary consideration, whatever that may be. There may be some executive benefits, like for an example, he's a director on a board, and this guy is allowed to dine and wine to the tune of 5,000 rand a month, maybe entertainment, or there could be some other expenses that he can make use of. Whatever the board of directors may decide. The fact is that this individual, Mr. Peter Simons, with an ID number as a tax registered citizen in the country, not a company, he's an individual on his own, is getting the benefit of monetary value to the extent that is reflected here. Could be an annual bonus, maybe there's some rental that he's getting up from some offices, he's renting out, or he's being paid for the use of his own home office, that sort of thing. And then maybe also a good place to show just a career position and some other credentials of this gentleman, in particularly what qualifications he have.
Sorry, Henk, can I just ask you something? That doesn't look right to me. You're saying that his annual bonus 13th check is 30,000 Rand.
Yeah.
But that surely is once a year. So effectively, you've got to divide the 30 by 12 to get his monthly, if he was going to work this over a monthly of 12 months.
Correct.
Otherwise, you've got to remove that figure altogether.
Correct. So remember, this guy's a director. He may get some other dividends in. He may get other bonuses in, other than just a 13th check. So whatever the income is from an additional bonus concept, it could be a performance bonus of any sort. So if the guy's running a commission structure, he's in a sales environment, he may get commission on sales, anything like that. So quite right, Anthony. It's a breakdown of an additional amount further to your basic salary. That's really the understanding here. Okay. So remember, it's also a template, this thing. So, if you guys want it, we're more than welcome to share it with you. And you can just change it to whatever amount you feel is a monthly income stream. Okay. And quite right, that should actually be a small amount. All right.
No, unless it is 30,000 times 12. I didn't think of that. So the guy earns like 360,000 Rand bonus.
Commission or bonuses, yes.
For the year, yeah.
For the year. But it makes up as 30,000 Rand a month. So if you take CEOs of medium-sized organizations that of revenue 50 million and up, they very easily start earning between 80,000 to 100,000 Rand a month. So it's not funny anymore for people of that size businesses to earn that kind of money. So if you think of the total income stream sitting around at 100,000, it's how it's split up, really. Okay. So remember, we're talking here today, we're talking as business owners, and we're talking about, in that context, like David mentioned, if we're a typical entrepreneur or a manager in a business, and we need to compare ourselves as an investor to that business, an outsider or an individual that sits separately to the business. So it's really what hat are we wearing at this point in time, all right? So in that consideration, you've got a opportunity to break down your salaries you should see fit if you're a smaller business with quick decision making. But if you're on a board of directors, you generally speaking will get a salary paid every month. You will have tax deducted and a number of other issues from that. Okay, so just on the expense side, you can see that's broken down. We just took some typical standard monthly expenses, and it gives this gentleman an amount of money at the end of the month that's basically sitting outside of his expenses versus his income. All right, so in this case, there's 14,000 Rand left over in a month. Now, typically, we also do look at a wife. In this particular case, this wife has got an income stream of 66,000, and with total expense of 42,000, giving you 23,000 left a month. Now, what is important here is that we then combine the husband and the wife, or the two partners, they may or may not be married, but we just reflect on what is the total monetary value available at the course of at the end of a month, and that that is available for extra spend. Okay, so again, the profit and loss statement of your business is actually in similar vein compared to the income and expense for your personal financial portfolio. All right, does that make sense? Any questions there? All right, quite simple. Again, straightforward, adds itself up. Maybe just a reminder, it's a good place to also show the person's personal career position and tertiary qualifications, because that sometimes count if you apply for financing, or you do apply for anything where people consider how financially strong you are. Now, the goal of this whole exercise is really to drive towards what is Natalie Simon's worth in monetary terms, and what is Peter Simon's worth as an asset value in monetary terms. All right, that's really we really want to get to. So we started off by looking at the income expense statement, and we then go to the asset and liability statement. So again, it looks like a bit of a heavy and a busy spreadsheet, but it's quite simple. So if you just look quickly at Peter Simon's now, let's make it a little bit bigger. All right, I hope you guys can see it all right. Okay, so here, what the interest here will be to look at what are the liabilities, in particular, that section here, top section, is basically reflecting on his liabilities every month. So this is not general expenses. This is where it's got a form of financial engagement within an institution, such as a bank, where there's a mortgage loan on. He's got a bond on a residential property, and the place was originally bought, just a bit of a description here, in 1995 for 3.2 million. The balance outstanding it is 2.5 million, and he's got an installment of 15,000 Rand a month. Okay. Now, of course, that will have to be reflected back here, that 15,000 Rand a month he's paying back on his bond every month. Okay. So just a reminder, it goes back as from his monthly income, there's an expense of 15,000. All right. The credit card, he's got a credit card with Absa Bank and with Nedbank, and to the value of a credit arrangement of 20,000, 30,000, and he's paying back 2,500 for both over the period. Important to indicate a balance on that, because that's money that's due back to the bank. So it's really, again, maybe making too much of it, but it's really quite straightforward. You lease a car from a bank like West Bank, you pay a certain amount of money, but there's an outstanding amount of money left to the bank. Under the current assets, so basically what we're trying to do here is to look at what is the assets that's registered on a person's name. So we're looking at fixed properties, vehicles, furnitures and fitting, business shares, loan accounts, unit trust, and of course bank balances where there may be cash lying around. And we've just broken down a few ideas here of what you can look at as descriptions towards such assets. Okay, so the important point here is that we want to get a monetary value again for that. So that property that is on the bond there, that is an outstanding amount of 2.6 million, that has got a market value of 5.5 million. All right. So there's literally almost a 3 million rand difference between those two values there in asset value to Mr. Peter Simons. All right. So immediately you can see that the money that the property is worth in the marketplace in comparison to the money that's due to the bank is in favor of Peter Simons to the value of 3 million rand. And the way we're getting it is that we're looking at that amount there that's due to the bank, and you subtract it from the 5.5 million. All right. Now, typically what we do, we had my property we were staying at now, we had it valued in February last year, I think, about a year ago. And so we've got a good idea of what the market value was then. It's now a year later, there's talk in the marketplace, the property prices are going down. So it will be a good idea for us to go and revalue our properties and to make sure that we get a more market-rated idea about what it's worth. All right, and then come back to our portfolio and come and update this. So what's then happening here is that besides the installments for the month, we also know what the outstanding balance is. This is the money that's due to, under the context of Mr. Peter Simons, to any entity outside that he borrowed money from. And that amount then is subtracted from his asset value to give you a total value. So this person, according to this spreadsheet, is worth 12 million. All right. So it's just a reflection on a typical asset and liability approach in comparison to what your balance sheet was showing your business. Now you can do the same for a partner, a wife, somebody that is close to you, that lives with you, or that shares the income with you. And in this case, we also got a net value for Natalie Simons as an example as the wife. All right. So quite straightforward. Any questions there? All right. So what we then did was we said, look, a lot of people have got family trust, or they've got another organization through which they will, besides a business, they've got a place where they have beneficiaries that can benefit from their long-term investments, or in the event of succession planning, can benefit in a certain way. And to house that, the family trust is a good vehicle to do. And we've also put together a family trust, a little assessment of assets and liabilities, pretty much the same as what we've done for the entities as individuals. All right, so we're getting an asset value for the trust as well. This is not accounting stuff, it's basic spreadsheet things. We just break it down, it's common logic. Once you've done it, once you put it in place, you very seldom have to go and change the details around here. You probably will just going to have to change market-related details here, because there may be things like loan accounts and those sort of things that could be important. Maybe just on the loan accounts, just to get back to business, if we take Mr. Peter Simons here, you will notice there that we've got an issue about loan accounts here, one of the assets. And in particular, Mr. Simons, have lent money to his company, XYZ Company Pty Limited, and to the tune of 300,000. So that company, XYZ Company, owes Peter Simons 300,000, and it's repaying it 5,000 rand a month. Okay, so Mr. Peter Simons here will have on his income, you will have a 5,000 rand a month loan repayment on that line there. All right, so you will see that the two interlinks with each other, and it's important that we reflect back, because while that money is being repaid, it will be a tax-free repayment of that loan. Peter Simons already have paid tax on that loan amount, as an example. Now, you don't need to worry in this time about your tax liabilities or pays on anything. You just reflect literally what your expenses are per month as the individual, the tax registered individual, as you have the figures on your pay slip. You don't have to do anything more than that, okay? What is great is when you have an accountant or financial advisor, you can actually give him your full portfolio, and you can ask them to actually look at it for your best optimal tax benefits. So you can actually see where there is opportunity to pay less tax and to actually optimize your benefits, not just for yourself, but also for your family around you. Okay? Along the family trust, just a reminder that there's a difference between trustees and beneficiaries. So typically in my family trust, we have got Damion and Nicholas as our children as the beneficiaries, and Barbara and myself will be the trustees. And as the boys grew older, they matured, they became young gentlemen. We then signed them up as trustees on our family trust for shared decision making on that. So it gives you a little bit of exposure onto other more formalities around the use of your family trust other than just the monetary control.
Sorry, do they remain beneficiaries as well then?
Yes, of course. You can be a beneficiary and a shareholder, just like in your business. You can be a shareholder and a director on the board, or you can be a shareholder without directorship. You can appoint a proxy to the board, Anthony. So,
so do the trustees are the same as a beneficiary? Because then if Barbara's not a beneficiary, what happens then if you were to pass away? Then does Barbara remain a trustee?
Yeah.
So what's the reason? What's the difference?
Yeah. So I may in my estate and my planning of where my will and estate will go, I may assign some of my assets that I listed here to Barbara away from my trust, because it's another legal entity. A family trust or any trust of any sort is a legal entity on its own. Barbara is another entity on her own, and she either have ownership in the trust or in the business, or she is in a managing position of it. All right. So if I should die, hopefully not soon, but if I should then pass on, I will have in my will that Barbara will get some aspects of my asset register, and others will go to the trust naturally. So I've got an opportunity, and I'll base that on what I know of my financial value. So I will use these information bits here to decide how do I plan my will and estate and my forward planning. And not just that, also succession planning. You know, I want to exit a business. I want to sell a business. I want to sell my shares. I know what it's worth in the marketplace. If I sell, let me give you an example. I've got shares in this business here, or Mr. Simon's got shares, 50% of XYZ company. It's worth 5 million. And he gets an offer for 4 million. All right. Now, what does he do? Does he accept the offer or not? He comes to the spreadsheet here. He goes in and says, all right, so actually, I'm not going to get 5 million for it. I'm only going to get 4 million. Now, remember, he's worth 12 million at the moment overall. All right. And you can see he drops to 11 million rand worth now because he's being paid out 4 million instead of 5 million. So he's losing R1 million on his asset value. But in context of his overall portfolio, he may make an informed decision here, because he gets paid out cash, or he's for whatever life reason, he decides that he doesn't want to carry on with being a shareholder in the business. He want to grab the opportunity. Okay, so it's just a nice, quick way to make a very informed decision about where do you want to actually take your business decisions around, or your financial decisions around your personal interest, but also in relation to other investments. It's the same, for instance, with unit trust. You know, you will have investments, perhaps. You may have a call account where you've got money on hold. So you've got to give 30 days or 90 days notice before you can withdraw the money. And you've got opportunity to assess what impact that money will have on your financial portfolio. All right. So it's again pretty simple, but it's a lot of powerful information around it. I just want to get to the insurance quickly, as Anthony asked earlier on. So this little tab here has served us really well in the past. I'm not a youngster anymore. I've also reached age where my insurance portfolio needed to consider very carefully around retirement annuities, around where we're going with investments. And to give you an idea here, if you all this information, your financial advisor will have readily available for you, right? But I haven't seen anyone that has actually summarized it for me personally the way I would like to look at my overall portfolio of insurances, to the extent that you can get information like here. So in particular, in this case, you may have a life insurance, you may have a retirement annuity, and you may have key man insurance for your business, all right? So again, the opportunity to fill in details, like for instance, who is the beneficiary of it, what's the maturity date, what is the policy number, the maturity value, and more importantly, what will be the death and the disability benefits, But this 1 year, the surrender value is of critical importance. You may want to cancel a policy, and there's a cashback surrender value for you. That amount of money is actually sitting there ready for you to take and use as you please and when you please. What it is, and should you do it and shouldn't you do it, that of course will have to be seen in context of your entire financial portfolio. All right. So the
Sorry,
same.
so Henk, what goes into your asset then? Is it 170? Because that is right now it's actually a current asset for you, because should you surrender it, you've got 170,000 rand to access.
Correct.
Or is it the 11 million, which is an asset on your death?
All right. So this money is not in your bank yet. All right. So it's a reflection of you are paying a monthly fee of 3,000 Rand for this policy to Sanlam, and it's building up a towards protecting you for death and disability. In the event of you cancelling it, there will be 120,000 Rand available for you, but it's not allocated to you as on any of your assets yet. We bring it in because we know that there's an opportunity to get liquid cash available. So at any given stage, as an example, we had a customer who wanted to emigrate. Okay, so he wanted to literally just cash in, get rid of everything, and make sure he gets as much as cash available to then convert it into pounds and go off to the UK. All right. So what we then do is we take this net value consideration, where we then work in the total surrender value. So all in all considered, taking your assets as it is listed on your personal balance sheet, if we can call it that, your assets liabilities listing, together with your payments available through your insurances, your long-term investments, call accounts, that sort of stuff, unit trust, and then to understand what money is actually really available. So all in all, if you cash in, this is the kind of money that you can get. Should you die, then there's another consideration, or for disability, there's another consideration. Okay, so these figures are completely open for criticism. If you put something like this together for yourself and your family, and you go to a bank and you apply for a bond, or you want to incur, or you any kind of loan arrangement with a financial institution or an angel investor, they will ask hard and tough questions about it. But in our experience and doing this for many years, first and foremost, when you put something like this in front of any financial consideration, it takes them aback. All right, you don't have to fill in lengthy forms. I can't remember when last I filled in a form at a bank to apply for anything or to work around any financial consideration, investments in that. I just literally give them this and I say to them, get back to me if there are queries. So you work with your banker, you literally give this to your banker, your financial relationship manager at the bank, as an example, or your financial advisor, if it's a private investment, and you make them part of the process, and they will come back and they will help you to allocate some of these aspects around your assets net, or they will query things. They will go say to you, listen, you've got this residential property there in 1991. You purchased the price for 600,000. It's 2.2 million, but it's in a very nice area. So why is it so low? Should you not get another market value? When last did you get a valuation done on that property? And so somebody with interest in your financials, from either giving you financial assistance or making investments on your behalf, will have a keen interest on your breakdown. But you have to start somewhere, and the idea is that you use a template like this just to get going. That's the whole idea here, right? And by doing a typical income expense statement, this actually talks to your pay slip as a starting point. But I can tell you that I get benefit of going to eat out because I'm a business owner. I go and eat out in the evening, and I take a customer to go with me, but I also take my wife with me. Okay, so it's part of entertainment, and I have an allowance for that as part of my monthly income, and that allowance is agreed to by board of directors. I reflect it in my benefits to SARS, and my taxes are optimized because of that. All right. So however I spend my money is broken down, and I give it consideration. And as you mature the process year after year after year, you get more in tune with these things. And of course, the big benefit is you'll actually walk around in your mind knowing that, look, every month you've got around that 38, 40,000 rand available, or you have nothing available. You're actually running at a loss. You need to cut expenses. And to get back to the pandemic crisis that we're in now, people are focusing so much on cost cutting in businesses, and they need to get rid of staff. They need to cut expenses. They need to worry about suppliers. What about their own personal expenses? And to what extent do they actually need to look at how they can reduce the monthly expenses? And this is a great way to do that. So you start here, you go and revisit this, add more, take off what you don't need, and you get a net result. Okay, so it's really quite straightforward, and it's easy to consume and to actually plan and move forward on. Okay, are there any questions on this, Barbara?
Yeah,
I just want to say that's actually quite amazing. I definitely would like a copy of the template. I think that's incredible. Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. I'll send it to you afterwards, Anthony. But what we also ask is in sharing this these templates, if you can also just give us feedback, so not the details of your financials, but to what extent did it work for you? Is there anything that you picked up that perhaps we can improve on? Because we share these templates with all our customers, and it helps people. It helps them to refocus on themselves, and it also assists them and their families. Just keep in mind on that very important aspect of financial planning.
Sure, absolutely, no problem.
Okay. All right, is there any other questions around? Anybody else?
No question, Henk. Just to say thank you to both you and Damion and Barbs for another great session. It was awesome.
No, it's a pleasure, Karen. How's things up there in the Natal area? Rainy, cold?
No, it's cold. It's cold. But yeah, I did this for those other people on the call today. I did this exercise, I think 2 years ago, and it's really, really, really worthwhile doing, to take a snapshot of where things are, and it actually galvanizes you into action. So it's a very good exercise.
Hi, Karen, it's Barbara here. I think what I always find interesting, because we do this, as Henk says, sometimes 3 times a year, just to check in with ourselves. And I used to be very glib about the fact that I spent maybe 10,000 Rand on food a month. And when I actually went and did a proper check, and I really looked at the figures that was going through my bank account, it's amazing how much more you spend than you think you spend. So with doing this portfolio, you literally have to go and check figures and just make sure that you're as accurate as possible to see the net effect of what you're actually doing every month.
No, I agree, Bob. Nothing like a benchmark to get you moving. Hey, that's very good.
Yeah, and I think it also installs a bit of confidence. If you have to make an investment, again, we're not talking just small or big companies. We're talking human beings here. We all have income of some sort. We all need to spend money, but sometimes we do it a bit blind, and we're not on top of our financials. And then that creates further stress. Other than running a business and worrying about other people, employees and their lives, you then start worrying about your own personal well-being. So this is an unquestionable part of your life that just need to be managed. And it can be really straightforward, really simple to start off with. It doesn't have to be complicated at all. All right, Damion, thank you.
All right, guys, so just quickly finish off the presentation. So we've got another 5 or so minutes left of the hour. The reason why we feel that your financial portfolio is so important, particularly in a time like this, is that we have to consider where our business will be going for the next few months. And a big part of any business is going to be the expense of salaries in your company. So as directors, as owners, as the key employees in your company, your salary will probably be quite a big chunk of what you're spending every month. So really look at your financial position in your personal capacity. You may be able to find some cost cutting mechanisms you can use there. You may be able to find some accounts you potentially could surrender if it's really that dire. Or you may be able to look at how can we find some assistance from my bank to either do a consolidation loan if needed, or potentially looking for some support with regards to financial payments as well. So having that, as Karen mentioned, that benchmark now of what my financial situation is looking like in my personal capacity, it will give me a bit of understanding of what I can or what I need to draw every month just to break even on my personal finances as well. And I think that's where us as business owners have to be a little bit more sharp and maybe sharpen our pencils a bit to see what we can do in our personal space just to get it right. All right. If there aren't any more questions, I think we will close out the webinar at the moment. Again, I think just the last little message to leave you with before you're going is the fact that anything we do now with regards to post-coronavirus and getting back to work, I say post as in post-lockdown, we have to do everything with speed. We have to make sure we have the right intent and we commit to our strategies. We need to be transparent to communicate those goals and those plans very clearly with our stakeholders. And we need to create an environment now of collaboration and cooperation. Whether you're a supplier, whether you're a customer, we have to look at how we can support each other over this period to make sure we all get through this as well. All right. Any questions or any other comments you guys want to make before we sign off?
I've got something that's not related to this. I just want to ask you guys, can you help me with a health and safety register? I don't know if you've got a template like that you can help me with or something. Not related to this, but it's a job that I have to do, and I have to have a health and safety register, and I have no idea what that is.
Okay.
I think we've got one somewhere for you.
Yeah, so I'm the corporate governance guy, Anthony. So what we do is we help companies to just check their health and safety, the occupational health and safety policies, and part of that is to have a health and safety register, and of course the formalities to that. Just a reminder to everybody that it's actually by law that a company has to have a health and safety policy, and it very specifically details the responsibilities aligned to the ownership of the business and or the CEO, the managing director, the top guy in a company making decisions. There's a huge fiduciary liabilities to that. So Anthony, after this, I can give you a call and we can just talk through it and maybe just help you to look where to find that sort of information.
All right, awesome, thanks.
Cool. If there's anything else, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and we will chat to you on Thursday when we have a bit of a discussion around fitness and health.